Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Canada Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to start off again talking about the smoke from the wildfires in Alberta that you can see up here, making its way, through the upper level winds of the jet stream, all the way across southern Canada into the Midwest, where we're even seeing it down here in Champaign, Illinois. Here's another closer view. This is actually a video I can play. This is the state of Wisconsin that we're seeing here. Then this would be Minnesota over here in the U.S.-Canada border. And this haze that we're seeing here across this region is not cloud cover. That is smoke from the Canadian wildflowers, or wildflowers. Wouldn't that be nice? Wildfires making its way down here into the Midwest of the United States. You can see that as well here. We're also looking at the upper Midwest into the Northeast. This was a map put out by the National Weather Service highlighting that. And down here, right where I drew that X, this is where Champaign, Illinois is. That is where our office is and where I'm sitting today. And as I drove into the office this morning, I had this view off to my east, where to my left or north, we have a hazy, opaque looking sky, and to the south, we've got a pristine blue sky. And that is because, here's my field of view, I'm looking off to the left, or looking to the east, this direction. But on the left side of my image here, you got the hazy, opaque skies, and to the right, you got the blue skies. So flip back one more time. This is the view here in Champaign. So we're feeling the effects of the weather, or the natural occurrences there in Canada, all the way down here in our office in Champaign, Illinois. So kind of a neat connection there. We're all connected at the end of the day by the jet stream and by Mother Nature here. But we can also model this and track the movement of the smoke. And this is a U.S.-focused weather model that we've got, but it's tracking the movement of that smoke, and again, seeing it kind of zig and zag across the U.S. and Canadian border, and then getting us down here where our office is, here in central Illinois. So kind of cool. If you want to put a cool spin on the wildfires up there, at least, is just kind of amazing, I guess, is a better word, to see how far the smoke from those fires actually travels, making it all the way into another country here. The impacts obviously can be severe. A little bit closer there, Calgary, your air quality health index here, 10 out of 10, or 10 plus, I should say, out of a 10 plus scale here. So poor air quality going to be a risk here over the next few days as those wildfires continue to burn and the smoke is trapped in the atmosphere here. So be aware of that for folks who have respiratory issues. That's actually absolutely a major impact that we'll be dealing with here. But we'll jump in. We'll take a look at the forecast here for the next week or so. Starting off with the week one precipitation anomalies from the GFS long-range model here, the ensemble model. So taking us into the first week of June. We do see those drier conditions continuing across the southern prairie region here. We're going to start to break down the ridge that's kept us hot and dry over this area. And so it starts off up to the north. We see some wetter than average conditions expected off to the north in parts of northern Alberta and northern Saskatchewan. And then over time that sinks south. We look at the week two precipitation anomalies here and starting to see average to above average across the entire area here from Alberta into Manitoba. So we'll break down how that happens here in just a moment. We're looking at the soil moisture difference from average, so the yellows, oranges, and reds that you see there, widespread across the region, showing that we are well below average when it comes to our soil moisture here, just because it has been so dry over the last several weeks with that persistent ridging over the Canadian prairies here, keeping us, again, very dry, keeping the precipitation forced off to the south, where it's been very active across the northern plains southward into the middle part of the United States. The drought monitor here, I'm curious to see what the next update is going to show. We had early drought stages beginning to emerge across parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba here back on April 30th, an entire month ago, and it has not been very wet since then. So I would imagine we're going to see these drought areas begin to expand, hopefully coming to an end, though, as we pivot towards what could be a more active period here across the Canadian prairies. The reason for that, we'll look at that. Here is the ridge that has kept us very dry, but over time we're going to see this begin to flatten out, and then actually see some troughing move into the area, and that's going to bring a more active pattern to the Canadian prairies here. We'll go ahead and play this, and there you see the ridge begin to smash down, begin to be smashed by these ridges, or these troughs, these areas of low pressure kind of just making their way in from the Gulf of Alaska here, and that is going to, again, bring change to the region in the form of a cooler and a slightly wetter pattern. We'll go ahead and play out the European model here, the forecast for precipitation, and I'll go ahead and let it restart here, and then we'll go through time. Starting off this weekend, we're remaining dry. Remember, we're dry here for the next few days, so it's not as if I'm promising you heavy rain tomorrow. But as we get into the early part of next week, we start to break down that ridge, and then it's around Monday evening into Tuesday, we see our first kind of major low pressure system begin to emerge here and track across the Canadian Prairie region. So probably dry for most of us through the weekend before we start to pick up on some of these low pressure systems moving through the area. So Monday, we get our first little wave going through there, and then we see another system sneak off to the south as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. And then as we get into the end of next week, starting to see another area of low pressure emerge across parts of Montana and southern Alberta into southern Saskatchewan. So perhaps a trio of systems there, kind of Monday, Tuesday, then another one Thursday, and then getting into the end of next week, seeing some precipitation across the region. So we'll break down the timing on those a little more specifically as we get into our Monday, Tuesday forecast updates here. But I just want to let you know that change is on the horizon, even though it will be another kind of hot and dry weekend. There's rain at the end of the tunnel here across much of the Canadian prairies. So we'll look at the high temperature forecast here, looking at the next 5 days, again dealing with some hot and dry conditions across the Canadian prairies here, mid-20s across the region for your high temperatures on Friday, upper 20s across much of the region on Saturday. Sunday, we're starting to see that heat begin to get kicked off to the south and to the east, near 30 to slightly above 30 in southern Alberta, down to the lower 20s off to the north. Cooler still as we get into the day on Monday, and then Tuesday still looking at a little bit more pleasant, a little bit more seasonally appropriate temperatures here in the teens to the lower 20s, with the warmer weather still confined off to the southwest, where again it's going to be a north to south progression here with that cooler and wetter weather slowly making its way off to the south. We'll look at the total precipitation forecast accumulation over here for Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and here you see the south to north progression, where maybe that system here that comes through Monday and Tuesday bringing some rain to northern areas, that midweek system may be hitting us here in the central parts of the area, and then as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of next week, looking at maybe southern regions finally picking up on that precipitation. So in the southern areas here, southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba, unfortunately going to be predominantly dry until we get to the end of next week. High temperatures for the next 5 days here. Friday, high temperatures cooler off to the north, warmer to the south and to the west. That heat continues to build as we get into Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures in the 30s across this region here, with 20s along and south of that line, cooler off to the north and to the west. That heat really building in as we get into Monday, 30s, low 30s becoming more widespread across the southern half of Saskatchewan and then into southern and western Manitoba. The heat pivoting off to the south and to the east as we get into the later part of the weeks. Here's your Tuesday high temperatures just to kind of finish things off. This is a bit out of order. I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and roll with it, though. I've got your 5-day accumulation for Alberta snuck in here at the very end, but it shows the same thing, that south to north progression, where that first system here early in the week gets you in the north, and then it's as we get into the end of next week that we start to pile on the precipitation across southern portions of Alberta, probably after Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday Morning Ag Forecast video, and I'll have your next Canada regional update for you right here, midday on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.